Michael Schumacher still leads in Hungary, but under challenge from Damon Hill. He's alongside. He's past Michael Schumacher.
I can't believe it. Damon Hill has taken the lead.
Damon Hill must be praying to the gods and he starts his final lap, that when he finishes it, he's the man that takes the checkered flag. Damon Hill comes out of turn 3, but he's slowing down. He's weaving side to side. A car on the grass.
Villeneuve goes by and takes the lead, and Damon Hill slips back to second. I don't believe it.
Will the hills and valleys of the Ardennes forest in Belgium be kinder to Damon Hill today than in Hungary 2 weeks ago? I'm John Watson and welcome to the magnificent Spa-Francorchamps circuit for the 44th Belgian Grand Prix, round 12 of the FIA Formula One World Championship, and a continuation of this nail-biting two-way championship battle between Michael Schumacher and Jacques Villeneuve. Spa-Francorchamps lies in the southeast corner of Belgium, some 80 miles from its capital city, Brussels. 20 minutes drive away from the circuit is the German border, and many thousands of fans of the brothers Schumacher and Heinz-Harald Frentzen have poured over the border to support this strong German lineup in Formula One. Well, these are the scenes in Belgium. 20 minutes ago, bright sunshine. Now the track is absolutely awash. Well, there have been many stories apart from the weather here this weekend in Belgium. The most important one has been that man, Damon Hill. He turned down a drive at the McLaren Mercedes team, but there are many other activities going on in the pit lane as well. And Derek Bell, welcome. Tell us about them.
Well, let's just see where everybody's thinking they're going. At Ferrari, we already have Schumacher and Irvine signed. At McLaren, minutes after Damon Hill rejected McLaren's offer for next year, they announced that Hakkinen and Coulthard would remain. At Benetton, Fisichella is under contract, but Eddie Jordan would really like to get him to remain at Jordan. Hill is the logical teammate to Fisichella, and of course Wirtz is also a possibility. At Williams, Villeneuve and Frentzen, they're locked in. At Jordan, we have Ralf Schumacher confirmed, but he would like Fisichella to stay. Alesi there is a strong favourite to stay along there too. At Prost, Olivier Panis has signed. Trulli is a possibility, and of course again Hill, and he's got a major Bridgestone contract. Sauber, we have Johnny Herbert, Mika Salo, and of course Berger in the sidelines. At Stewart, we have Rubens Barrichello, and of course possibly Mika Salo there. But let's just go down to Jonathan Green, who's talking with Mika Hakkinen.
I'll never forget.
Who's got the biggest fan club? Well, you're in for a surprise, and Jonathan Green's going to take us there. You're making me crazy, young Williams.
This is a pretty popular Grand Prix for you, yes, yeah?
It's hard work outside the circuit, so...
This is like your home Grand Prix there, the Belgian Grand Prix, because it's what, half an hour from your home?
That's right, I mean...
Spa-Francorchamps is your clear favourite Grand Prix track in the world. In appalling conditions, lead to it.
Well, you must all go to Spa to see a race. 4.3 miles in the Ardennes forest. It's the world's greatest remaining road course, in my opinion. The ultimate driver's circuit, shorter than the original 7 miles, but it still gives the drivers that adrenaline rush as they pour down the hill to Eau Rouge, sweep up the hill through the Réunion, to drive all the way up the hill to Les Combes. They're putting 190 miles an hour as they go up the hill towards the Les Combes Malmedy chicane, or right and left as they go through here, to start working their way down the hill towards the rivage as they go down, working their way down all the way through these wonderful corners. Here we come down through Fane right now, on the way down here to Stavelot. Stavelot is a corner at the bottom of the hill, which leads all the way back up the hill to the start-finish line, and of course on the way up through to the bus stop. Here we come into the bus stop, the infamous bus stop, put in there to slow cars down, work their way out of there, accelerating out a medium-high force circuit, 190 miles an hour. Wonderful, wonderful track. Let's go down to David Coulthard for his interpretation of the track setup.
Well, obviously I've had a good start to the weekend when the announcement that both myself and Mika will be paired up for next year.
And Jacques Villeneuve dominated, 7th pole position of 97, 10 in total. John Alesi joins him in the front row of the grid. 7 times he's been second quickest in his Grand Prix career. Second row, Michael Schumacher currently leading the championship by 3 points. He's going to start the race in his spare Ferrari with the Step 2 engines. Young, brilliant Italian Fisichella Everything's gone pretty well for him this weekend. Row 3, Mika Hakkinen, reinstated after being disqualified from qualifying on Saturday, starts from row 3, 5th position. Ralf Schumacher spun on that parade lap. He ran back to the pits. He will start from the pits in the spare car. Row 4, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, disappointing qualifying. Great from Pedro Diniz in the Arrows Yamaha. Damon Hill leads row 5 in the second of the Yamaha Arrows, and David Coulthard joins him on 10th position. Row 6, Johnny Herbert, Rubens Barrichello. Row 7, Gianni Morbidelli and Jarno Trulli. Row 8, Gerhard Berger, awful weekend to date. Shinji Nakano alongside. Row 9, Eddie Irvine. What's wrong, Eddie? Jan Magnussen in the Stuart Ford. Row 10, we see Mika Salo, a driver right on the centre of conversations. Yukio Katayama joins him. And finally, row 11, Jos Verstappen, Jos de Valt, and Brazilian Tarso Marquez. So the field is beginning to make its way around the track. There we see the safety car. We've got Jarno Trulli, he's in his spare car, starting from the pit lane also. So we had gorgeous weather, we had record-breaking heat here this weekend. 20 minutes before this race got underway, the heavens opened and the rain came down. We were going to talk about tyres and pit stops. The consensus is on the dry, you want to make 2 stops if you're on the Goodyear hard or the Bridgestone hard. Damon Hill in the Arrows, both Arrows and both Minardis are on the Bridgestone soft tyre, that's the optional tyre. This race has been thrown into confusion. Now Derek Bell, in these conditions, overtaking, that's how you get, what are we going to do?
It's in fact going to be a rolling start behind the safety car, John, which I think is very interesting to note at this stage, a very wise manoeuvre by the organisers. However, as far as the tyres are concerned, I mean, it's just a matter to start with of just getting to know where that water is lying worst, and you can bet your bottom dollar it's lying worse in some areas than in others. There is at Spa, you get the water running across the track from one side, particularly through the Raidillon, you get it running across very fast areas. It's a very tricky circuit. It's the one circuit that you do not want rain, but we always seem to get rain, whatever race it is and whatever time of the year. But nevertheless, it's going to be obviously down, I think, to the Bridgestone wets. They seem to work phenomenally well. We've seen Damon Hill and obviously Rubens Barrichello run exceptionally well in the wet during this season, but of course, they've got to be able to see to get by. And you can see here, there ain't too much good vision out there. It's very difficult for them. If it gets to the dry, and I'm sure it'll get dry within about 10 or 15 laps, look at it now. That is the spray coming off. That is what the driver has to contend with. Of course, we have a lens on this camera which probably isn't as curved as the visor on the driver's helmet, so the water is not running off as well. But look at that spray, look at the water running across the road. Of course, this is a Michael Schumacher type situation. He is, of course, the best in the rain, but we know that the Bridgestone tyres, for some reason, seem to have got their act together when it comes to wet tyres, probably from all the development work and racing they've done in Japan over the years. But it's certainly an intriguing race. And of course, as far as overtaking is concerned, well, you can overtake anywhere. You just follow the guy in front, hope he makes a minor error, gets a bit sideways, can't quite point the car in the corner, and you just slip by on the inside, keeping traction. But my goodness, it's going to be an intriguing race. And of course, don't forget that we've got Schumacher and Villeneuve up front, both wanting to finish the race to get points.
Well, Derek, of course, Ralf Schumacher, he spun his car down at Stablo, the lowest part of the track. And thank goodness he's a fit young man, because about a good mile run up the hill, he will start in the spare car, which was dedicated to Giancarlo Fisichella. There is Fisichella on screen right now. Jarno Trulli likewise, he's got to start in the pit lane. But my concern is that although this race is going to start behind the safety car, when that safety car finally pulls off, the visibility problem will be enormous. And of course, with such high speeds for so many areas of the circuit, and with trees lining the large part of this racetrack, the spray goes up, Derek, it gets locked in the trees, it doesn't get dissipated.
No, it is an astonishing thing, John. Let's just say one thing. We've just heard from the pits that Michael Schumacher is on intermediate tyres. And my goodness me, what a brave man. But boy, he's got a brain on his shoulders. You saw that miraculous drive he had at Monaco. And we can see here today in Spa in the rain, he's going to be a little bit conservative to start with. But Michael has that sensitivity that no other driver seems to have. In fact, Jarno Trulli is still in the pits with electrical problems with his car. So that is a great disadvantage for him. They're doing their second lap of reconnaissance at the moment, as far as I can see. I thought they might have only done the one, but they're doing two to familiarise the drivers with where the wet water or the deep water really is. But look at it, as they streak up the hill. Normally, they'll be pulling about 170 as they come up here. And look at that water lying on the track.
Derek, I think the race actually is underway, but it's behind the safety car. The safety car will pull off at a predetermined time, whether it is 1 lap or 2 laps. Jarno Trulli has in fact joined this race, but he will join at the very tail end. Of course, Michael Schumacher, talking about running on intermediate wets or whatever they are. Remember back in 1995, when in similar conditions, maybe not just quite as wet, he was on slick tyres and Damon Hill was on full wets, and he kept Damon Hill at bay for 3 laps. That was the drive that really, I think, blew Damon's brains. So this is a race lap, as I mentioned to you a minute ago. This is a race lap. So the Ferrari team once again preparing now. Is this a set of slicks or is this a set of full wets for Michael Schumacher? It can't be slicks. These conditions clearly are appalling. But Derek, it's the first time I believe we've seen a Grand Prix in recent times start under the safety car.
Well, it would have been nice to have told us, actually, because I think for everybody at home, they probably think we've missed something. In fact, we did miss something because they didn't tell us, but the race has started under yellow. They're cruising around in the back now as they're going behind the pace car, and when they figure that the circuit is dry enough, the situations are good enough, they will allow the race to start, because Spa is one of those circuits. It's not a small circuit, it's 4.3 miles long, very, very fast corners, very fast circuit, very dangerous circuit, the most dangerous circuit in my book, but therefore the most demanding and most adrenaline pumping circuit there is in the world today, and certainly in road racing. So I think it's a very wise move by the organisers. So everybody at home, the race has started, but there's no overtaking allowed until those yellow lights go out, and we'll be intrigued to see who happens to be coming in the pits for tyres. Michael Schumacher may well be considering it's just too wet for intermediates, but I can't imagine Michael at this stage chickening out and coming in. He may well say just get ready, because it totally depends on how many laps they do under this yellow caution flag. It looks like they're still doing it, so Michael will stay out as long as they can.
Well, a courageous decision from Michael Schumacher, but of course maybe a well-weighed measure. But of course in these circumstances, it's the first time we've had a race start under the safety car. You're not allowed to overtake. It is a criminal offence, almost a capital offence in Formula One to do so. The safety car stays out for 1 more lap. If it was going to come into the pits, it would have gone off to the bottom left of your screen. So the field streams through the bus stop chicane for the second time. The second lap of a 44-lap Grand Prix has been completed. But look skyward. The sky does look to me as if it's beginning to clear up. And that decision by Schumacher to go on a groove slick tyre or a semi-wet tyre could be the smartest decision of any driver so far this season. Johnny Herbert just pulling out of the spray to get a bit of clear vision as he runs up along up behind. That would have been David Coulthard, the car he's directly behind. But there is the problem. At eyesight, at ground level, it is impossible to see a thing, Derek.
But up here it looks pretty good, John, doesn't it? The visibility is pretty good. They're following the pace car. Oliver Gavin, a Formula 3000 driver and touring car driver extraordinaire, he's actually out in the pace car in front. So he's driving pretty darn fast, and they're probably doing 100 miles an hour in the pace car, or even more if they can up the hill. But of course they've got to keep the pressures up in these tyres, although of course in wet tyres it's not so vital. Michael Schumacher with the intermediates will want a bit of warmth in the tyres to make them work. Very brave move, but you can see the spray we're seeing is set up by the cars. It's not actually rain coming down on the track. So every lap really the track is getting fractionally drier. This will suit Michael Schumacher no end.
Look, there's the tyre choice of Michael Schumacher. But looking at Derek, as we saw that very high overhead helicopter shot, looking down, I was thinking I can see the beginnings of a line appearing as they come down from La Source, hairpin down through Eau Rouge, up through the Radio, and then all the way up along the straight.
Absolutely, John, it's absolutely right. And let's just one little tactical thing that Schumacher will do. If the race were to start now, you'll notice that he will probably not follow the actual racing line. Michael would very possibly drive around the high part of the corners. This circuit is beautifully laid out now, and he will probably run around the higher part, the bit that has the dirt on, the bit that has the grits of grit, rubber, gravel on, and he will probably run around slightly offline to get the traction that he requires. And this is something that all racing drivers know what to do in the rain, is to try and find that bit more grip. So take a slightly different line to the cars that are following the wet line, and you'll see Schumacher probably trying this as the race starts.
Well, we're still racing, believe it or not. This is the Belgian Grand Prix, but we're under safety car. This race, remember, was started behind the safety car. We have had 2 full race laps. This, the 3rd lap of the race. Look at Mika Häkkinen. I think he might have taken a punt also. Now, Mika Häkkinen was in all sorts of trouble. Not really Mika, it was the McLaren Mercedes team. A fuel sample was taken by the stewards of the meeting. That sample did not match the fingerprint of the sample that is lodged with the FIA. That meant an immediate putting back to the tail of the grid. McLaren appealed. Their appeal is going to be heard, and Mika Häkkinen was reinstated onto his 5th place on the grid. Now that is a contentious situation. Should the appeal be lost by McLaren, the consequences are very grave indeed. But of course, what happens if Mika Häkkinen were to win this Grand Prix this afternoon? Well, he will be winning the Grand Prix under appeal. Another unusual circumstance for a Grand Prix that's already thrown us up more jokers this afternoon than we would probably expect at all.
Well, the safety car is meant to go in this lap, John, and I think it did. The race is about to start. The teams now know their men have done, I think, something like 3 laps, but everybody seems very confused. Look at Schumacher's line. He's taken that wider line to find the drier line. Look at him out there. Just see what he does. Alesi's going to be a little bit cautious, but Schumacher's all over the side of Alesi. Let's see what they do as they go down to Eau Rouge. But he'd be a very brave man to think of going by just here.
Well, Jean Alesi, we have seen in previous times, and the rain is absolutely masterful on full wet. Michael Schumacher on that semi-slick, semi-wet. But with the skies now breaking up and clearing, it will only take maybe 4-5 laps at most. And if Schumacher can keep in contact with Jacques Villeneuve and Jean Alesi, he looks down the inside, but Villeneuve clearly has the corner. But Michael Schumacher is still very close, Eric.
Yeah, well, if Michael can do this sort of thing as he did before on slicks in the wet, I'm sure he can hang in there on intermediates, John. We've seen him, he is the rain meister, but look how sideways he gets, goes down the inside of Alesi, trying to get him going in. Is he going to get him there? The problem is, as he comes down there, he's got to be careful he doesn't lock those brakes up and then slide down inside Alesi. This is something Michael has to be very careful of. Wonderful shot here, except we can't see a thing. But look at Alesi there. He's battling to keep the car on the road. Right behind him you have Fisichella. Schumacher has another look down the inside, but no, there's just too much water there. This is where the old brain and the stomach are combining together to make you feel that balance, feel it sliding, get it absolutely au point. You can see Schumacher right there having a real look at the back of Alesi, but I can't even see Schumacher now.
Well, Jacques Villeneuve is opening up a lead. Jean Alesi really struggling to keep Michael Schumacher at bay. Michael Schumacher very wisely backed off as they went into the rivage, and Jean Alesi maintained that 2nd place, but there the battle for 2nd, 3rd, and Giancarlo Fisichella remaining comfortably in contact with Michael Schumacher, just hanging back sufficiently. Vision, of course, Derek, look at it. It is appalling as they come up through the Blanchimont, that double left-hand corner, not flat this afternoon.
But boy, what an advantage to be in front, and that's exactly where Villeneuve is. He can see a clear, wide open bit of road. Those guys behind can see absolutely nothing, and you have no idea how little those guys behind can see. Oh, there's the corner, they say. As the spray drops, they try to get traction out, but you won't be long now before Schumacher, I think, probably has a go at Alesi as he comes into La Source hairpin. Coming up any moment now. Schumacher's going to do a little bit of dipping and diving, and down the inside he goes. Is he going to get him? Is Alesi going to let him? Yes, he's got him. It slips through, but look at the understeer as he pushes across the road. Understeer taken over because there's so much water there, he cannot get any traction. But that's it. Now, boys, we've got a race on our hands.
Well, Derek was at the pass of the year. Michael Schumacher, semi-slicks, comes from a long way behind, sort of sneaks his way up, sticks the nose of the Ferrari in. Alesi says, no way, Jose. Oh, it's Michael. Sorry, Michael. After you.
Yeah, I think Alesi and Michael are about the only two would allow each other to go by because they know the commitment. But look how Schumacher screams up as they come up the top to Les Camps on Villeneuve. He's caught up about 80 yards up the hill through the Réunion. Now he's over the back of Villeneuve. Now we'll just see how good Villeneuve is in the wet. He says he's really good in the rain. He's on wet tyres. He has the better situation. But no way, Jose. I'm taking you, Jacques. I'm the darn world champion, and I'm going to show you I'm the best.
There is a master at work, and he has put it across young Jacques Villeneuve, a man who dominated qualifying, a man really who felt he could come here and take yet another race victory. Michael Schumacher plants that flaming red Ferrari down the inside into Rivage. Masterful drive. There is a world champion, ×2, doing the job that makes him stand head and shoulders above everybody.
I mean, the other men are on wet tyres and he's on intermediates, and that
Ralph Schumacher off the track again.
But can you believe it? Schumacher is on intermediates. This is not an intermediate circuit. Look at that spray. Any of you people watching that have ever driven a car in the wet on a racetrack will know this is a wet track at the moment. And Schumacher is just streaking away. Look at him go.
There is Ralf Schumacher, second time off track. First was before the race began, second now. But look at Fisichella putting heat on the back of Jean Alesi up through Blanchimont, double left-hander, as race leader Michael Schumacher with a country mile of an advantage over second place Jacques Villeneuve, third Jean Alesi, fourth Fisichella, fifth Mika Häkkinen. We're going to take a commercial break to give us a chance to catch our breath, but come back and join us. We are going to see the best Grand Prix of '97. Welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps. Giancarlo Fisichella, he found his way around Jean Alesi. Now he's going to do the same to Jacques Villeneuve in second place. Fisichella driving an absolutely magnificent race. The young 24-year-old from Rome sneaks up to the back of the Williams Renault, puts the Peugeot engine. There is one of the two Prosts. Is that Trulli or Nakano? He didn't get it, Nakano. So, looking for Fisichella. Where is he? Still behind Villeneuve, but now, Derek, the bus stop chicane.
Yeah, he's going to have a go down the inside, is he? No, Villeneuve's blocking him out as he goes in there. You've got, he does. Villeneuve missed it, he overshot it. That's exactly what I was going to say. You've got to be so careful you don't lock a wheel up and sail down there. Villeneuve will have quite a penalty there. I don't know quite what it is, but he'll lose quite a bit of time. He's gone down into the pit road to make a pit stop, but he has to keep at the speed. He's going to go in anyway. I don't know if he's going to put intermediates on, but I didn't think that was a real... Well, I guess they were ready. He doesn't like those wet tyres, so I guess he's putting some intermediates on now, but oh my goodness, that was an amazing piece of manoeuvre there. I thought Fisichella had out-fumbled him, but I don't know whether Jacques intended to come in or not, but the team were ready for him.
Well, Villeneuve comes out on the similar tyre that Michael Schumacher started the race. This is not the full wet. Let's have a look again and see what happened to Nakano. This is down at Fagnes. That's the corner that leads down to the lowest part of the track. So for the young Japanese on that Bridgestone tyre, really, he should have had enough grip. So what's going to happen to Jacques Villeneuve? Well, clearly he will drop a long way down, but he's on that intermediate tyre. Pedro Diniz, brilliant in 7th place, got past teammate Damon Hill in 8th, David Coulthard 9th, and Johnny Herbert rounds out the top 10. But there's the battle that's going on. 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10. 6 cars battling for 5th place. Derek.
Well, what about that $10 million Diniz paid and Damon Hill overtook him? I mean, that's his, and he overtook Damon Hill, his teammate, and Damon Hill gets paid about $7 million of it. That is an amazing piece of driving by somebody they say is an amateur driver and is out there just because he's got loads of money. He actually was quicker than Damon in qualifying, and he's overtaken him in the rain around Spa, which is the greatest driver's track in the world in my book.
17 seconds. That's the lead that Michael Schumacher has built up. Now we're on now the 8th lap and a massive advantage. But look, this battle down into Stablo. Mika Häkkinen, Frentzen, Mika Häkkinen, Pedro Diniz, Damon Hill, David Coulthard, Johnny Herbert. They're scrapping away as we look up, come across the start-finish line. Michael Schumacher completes 7 laps. Now there is a little bit of confusion, but we're seeing 7 laps in the record book. Fisichella second, Alesi in the pits. Mika Häkkinen continues around. Pedro Diniz, let's try beg your pardon, Frentzen, Häkkinen. And then all that battle that's going on behind Damon Hill almost gets nudged by Johnny Herbert. Hill struggling to even match the pace of his young Brazilian teammate Alesi into the pits.
Well, it's very obvious that the intermediates now are becoming the tyre to use. They're putting them on, as you can see, because the proportion of the track is really becoming quite dry. But he's on slicks. Alesi is going out on slicks. Not a silly move, Jean, but I think you're going to be held up for a while. I don't think you're going to find it easy to get a temperature in those tyres too soon, and I think it could be almost, I think that's the wrong move. But look at Schumacher just streaking away, fastest lap 2:07, which is like 7 or 8 seconds quicker than anybody else is doing. Absolutely amazing, but you can see there's still a lot of water then to overtake. As you can see here, Frentzen is just being overtaken here by Coulthard, I think I'm right in saying. Coulthard went well by him, but of course, you've got to take a wet line to go by anybody. So if you're on a slick tyre intermediate, you've got to be very brave to think of going down the inside on that wet line to overtake.
Pedro Diniz
overtaking Frentzen. This is something else. Johnny Herbert goes through. Hill is demoted 3 places behind Pedro Diniz. This is something, all the speculation and all the millions of dollars, and this guy pays 10 million a year to drive, and he's blowing them away.
Derek, I haven't seen racing on motor racing like this since last night when I watched the Bristol 500 from Bristol, Tennessee. It was a magnificent race, and we've got close racing in wet conditions, but there, the drying line. So, who will be next in? Is it going to be Frenson? Look at that, Damon Hill shoots down the inside, gets past Frenson. Battle, oh, Barrichello does the same, and Magnussen also. So the two Bridgestone tied, Stuart Ford all over the back of Heinz-Harald Frenson.
What, of course, you must realise, these cars, the two Arrows, and of course the two the two Stewarts are all on Bridgestone tyres, and we know the Bridgestone tyre works very well in damp conditions. And of course, with the situation now, we've seen that Villeneuve came in, we've seen Alesi come in, so we know that the Goodyear wet at this point is not responding as well, and that's what we're seeing this situation, that they're all catching up and overtaking poor old Heinz-Harald, who's slipping back out of the view totally.
Well, Michael Schumacher leads this Grand Prix with an enormous lead. His closest rival in the championship, Jacques Villeneuve, he's way back in the pack, but remember, he came in, he put on a similar set of rubber to Schumacher. I think that was a mistake. He should have gone as Alesi did for full dry weather slicks. 28.5 seconds. Now the pit lane is going to be like a traffic jam. Frenson struggles in as he makes his first stop. He was really in trouble, Derek, in that last couple of laps. Full slicks for Frenson. I anticipate very shortly we'll have the race leader Michael Schumacher in to add further pain to that he's applied to everybody this weekend. Irvine's in, looks like Jordan team are ready, but there Damon Hill at the top of the straight. He leads Jan Magnussen. This is down through the field. There we have Gerhard Berger, who's had a miserable weekend to date, but has made progress. He's coming up through the field, but of course, having started so far down the field, Gerhard Berger started 15th. All that water on the track, all the spray, it's really hurt him badly in these opening laps.
Well, it's certainly drying out, John. I obviously it is becoming slick weather, but I still don't think that's real true slick. As I say, you have to overtake. There is slick as they come round there. That is for sure. That's slick on the fast corners. Oh, one of the Stewarts is out of the race already, Barrichello. That's very sad. He was running extremely well. I guess this is still part of the Ford's development. They're having a major problems this year with reliability, but it is their first season as a full Ford team, so we hope for better things next year.
Things beginning to settle down a little bit. These pit stops that have come out of sync. Remember, under normal dry conditions, we were anticipating that all the Goodyear and all the Bridgestone runners would be making 2 stops. That is the quickest way to run a Grand Prix here in Spa-Francorchamps. Because of the nature of the racetrack, very hilly, long straights, heavy fuel load means a big penalty in terms of acceleration, cornering and braking. So, majority have opted for 2. Those further down the field, well, we don't know, but Michael Schumacher, look, half a lap literally ahead now of Giancarlo Fisichella in second place.
He's still got spray coming off those tyres, so in that situation, he's still probably pulling away. Fastest lap, he just clocked 2:06. That's still quite a bit faster than anybody else has done, and I believe until we actually see one of the leading cars that are on slicks doing better times, Michael can simply 34 seconds. That's 6 seconds that lap over the top of Fisichella. 6 seconds, so he's not exactly losing too much time at this moment, so he's very wise to stay out on that intermediate. Don't forget, it could well be a very hard intermediate he has on the car, and that's what we don't know.
Gerhard Berger back out. He had up to 10th place. Fine effort. So we look at Giancarlo Fisichella, the young Italian, in second place, but 35 seconds behind. While this is all happening, we're going to have this opportunity for a quick break. Rejoin us in a moment and see how much Michael Schumacher has increased his lead. Again is confused. Fisichella had a significant advantage over Mika Häkkinen in third. He may have returned in that second place, but Häkkinen, Coulthard fourth, Denise fifth, Johnny Herbert sixth, Damon Hill, he was in seventh. He's had a pit stop. So the majority of the field have now, Derek, been into the pits and are on slick tyres.
Well, in fact, Coulthard's just been overtaken. In fact, as you spoke, John, by both, yes, Coulthard being overtaken here by Johnny Herbert. Right there you see, and David actually gave way at the top of the hill to let them through. These two guys haven't obviously been in yet for the tyres that they require, so Herbert's moved through, and of course the car in front of him.
And David, that was Pedro Denise. Pedro Denise got past David Coulthard, so we have now got Pedro Denise in fourth place. Johnny Herbert is fifth, and it's DC David Coulthard in 6th place. I mean, the drive of Pedro Diniz this weekend has been the revelation in reality. Great what Michael Schumacher's done. We've given him all the eulogies, but this young Brazilian is driving out of his skin.
Yeah, well, he's never been 3rd place in a Grand Prix before. He's right up there. Incredible situation for him. 3rd place, Herbert 4th, and David Coulthard 5th. Absolutely astonishing. Look at them. Herbert's all over the back of him, got his full attentions as they come up into... Oh, here they go, sweeping down the hill, sweeping up. They can see the drying line, a bit of moisture there. They're trying to pick up a bit of moisture on their tyres to keep them working, of course. Oh, Herbert goes in the pits to put on his dry tyres. And of course, this leaves Diniz out on his Bridgestone wets, or certainly an intermediate. What we don't know is what actual rubber they're using on these wet tyres. They don't have to tell us. Meanwhile, Schumacher streams on. Of course, for Michael, the longer he can stay out in his intermediates, the better. He's running in some water to cool them down. Of course, don't forget, this track just a while ago was 100-degree track temperature. Then the rain came, so you can imagine, he retained that heat, and of course, it dries up the circuit very quickly. Both Coulthard in the pits and Johnny Herbert.
Yes, battle in the teams. Coulthard gets out, I think, slightly ahead. No, it's Johnny Herbert has managed to sneak out. Look how busy the pit lane is. Every team is ready to service their cars. There's Jacques Villeneuve in. Finally in. He went in once. He put on an intermediate tire. He had to come in a second time for the slick. Bad strategy and planning from the Williams team. For Jacques Villeneuve, now he's got a mountain to climb if he's going to get any hope of getting into any significant points-winning position this afternoon. Mika Häkkinen in 2nd place. He's out on track once again.
Meanwhile, Michael just cruises around in front on his intermediate. Look at his tyres as he comes up the hill. Look how chewed up those tyres are. Those wet tyres really chewed up. Oh, he's on the grass. That was why. That's quite a lot to do. That's the top of the hill at Les Combes. He's going to get back on the track at the second part for the little right-hander. Here he is running around trying to find as much firm. Oh, look at him launch it off there. That's the only problem. Here he's back on the road again at Les Combes. I remember going the guardrail there too once. Anyway.
Yeah, Derek, you see that? Something flew off again the right side of Mika Häkkinen's car. It may have been something that was off track, but Mika's had an eventful weekend. He even had an off this morning. We saw that awful incident he had during Saturday morning running when a rear suspension member failed. He then went off track this morning, and he is actually in the spare car this afternoon. So Mika, 3 offs so far this weekend. There, one of the rip-offs, the driver rip-offs from his visor up in the air.
And I have a feeling he's going to come in this lap, John. I think it's a must that he must come in and change tyres. Schumacher's coming around the corner now. What is he going to do? We're just checking his tyres out. They don't look too bad to me, but of course they do heat up remarkably quickly in these conditions. But of course it's still damp down here, and if he runs a little bit offline, he can still keep the moisture. Fastest lap 2:05. Schumacher still clocking in the fastest lap, 2 minutes 05. That's quicker than anybody else. So the intermediate tyres he's got on, probably a hard intermediate, is still working remarkably well. Mika Häkkinen was in 2nd place, now in the pits for those slicks to be said he certainly needed.
And Pedro Diniz now makes his way in also, so the young Brazilian who had momentarily gained 2nd place, he will lose that. Mika Häkkinen returns to circuit. Pit lane certainly very, very wet indeed, but of course the racing line around this 4.4 miles Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Now you see the lighter colour is the drying line.
Let's drive with Schumacher.
Jan Magnussen, the only Stuart Ford remaining in this race, and Jan Magnussen and Michael Schumacher are now the only 2 drivers, Derek, who have yet to make it into the pits for their first round of stops. And I think what Schumacher's doing certainly is to get very close to his first pre-planned pit stop window so as he can take on fuel and tyres and not have to make additional or out-of-sync stops.
Oh, without a lap, look at Salo, quickest lap, 2:04.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. Mika Salo, the fastest man on track, join us back here in a moment and see Michael Schumacher regain the lead. His first stop and service of the day. The race leader had over a 60-second advantage. So whatever happens, he will return to this Grand Prix on slicks, refueled, in the lead of this race. And assuming he has no other problems, this is going to be a lovely afternoon's work for the German, who had the right strategy, the clarity of mind to opt for that intermediate Goodyear tyre. That gave him the enormous advantage. He was able to run that tyre in the drying conditions and not lose any of his advantage. Jacques Villeneuve championship contender. He's all the way down in 13th position.
It's amazing that Williams just seems to have the most astonishing ability to make very poor judgment when it comes to wet conditions, a la Monaco. Not the first time this year. I mean, so disappointing. John Alesi gets the quickest lap, but so disappointing to see the way Williams can do this. It really is down to the driver, of course, at the end of the day. But here we go, good shot of Schumacher showing the dry tyres working here. They really are getting on and doing the job as he goes up the hill. But of course, there's not too much wet out there now. As long as he has a clear lap, he's doing fine. But he's got to keep on that dry line as he goes around the corner, goes down through Rivage. Look at him follow that dry line through. You just cannot afford to put your little wheels 6 inches offline, boys. You really start to slide, and the law of physics take over as Alesi streaks up the Raidillon and up the hill. Alesi, of course, has the quickest lap, and I believe is lying second at this time.
Indeed he is. Giancarlo Fisichella third, Mika Häkkinen fourth, Johnny Herbert fifth, David Coulthard in sixth place. But a great drive by Jean Alesi. That's the benefit of having a front row good position. Frentzen seventh, Berger eighth. Good drive by the young Dane Jan Magnussen in ninth. Damon Hill rounds out the top 10. Well, for Jacques Villeneuve and the whole Williams team, you have to think that they've shot themselves in the foot this afternoon. The only bad news is they got 2 feet. One down, one to go. Jacques Villeneuve has moved up a couple more spots up to 11th, and inevitably as these drivers and cars sort themselves out in these drying conditions, Villeneuve will make progress, but to battle his way up, remember, 3 points behind Michael Schumacher as they come into this 12th round of the World Championship. Michael Schumacher on 56 points, Jacques Villeneuve on 53. John Alesi second in this race, third in the championship. He's on 22 points. So Alesi working, trying to retain, but battle Damon Hill, Jacques Villeneuve, Pedro Diniz, Eddie Irvine. What a battle going on. 9th place battle.
Well, great run from Eddie Irvine, incidentally. He's come up from about 18th, way down the grid. Villeneuve streaks by. Very brave move by Jacques as he goes through, overtakes Damon as he comes. Oh, Ed Irvine goes out very wide as he allows one of the Tyrrells to go through. Very dodgy situation there. Nonetheless, they're having one heck of a drive here. It's very exciting to watch, but you've got to be immaculate, and there's cars all over the place.
Well, we're looking at Damon Hill, Pedro Diniz, Jacques Villeneuve. They are all over this racetrack. These guys are doing what they're paid these millions of pounds for, to be a racing driver. Let's just watch it. Young Pedro Diniz on merit is driving the wheels off his illustrious world champion teammate Damon Hill, and Nick Magnussen sneaks through as well.
Yeah, can you believe that? Diniz overtaking. I can't wait to see what dear old Damon has to say after this one. There we have it though, Schumacher well in the lead from Alesi and Fisichella, but my goodness, Jacques Villeneuve is streaking up as well. He's doing a great job. He's now right up the back, I think, of David Coulthard, I think I'm right in saying. Right close to him there as they go down through Rivage to work their way downhill. So these two, I think, will be locked in for a good battle for a while now. And there is Johnny Herbert being followed there by, as I say, David Coulthard and Villeneuve. They're having a tremendous dive. But this is a real drive of the Titans because they cannot afford to put one leg out of bed. Look at Jacques getting on that wet. That's very difficult for him to actually, I'm sorry.
Was Frentzen
yes, through there. I do apologise. That orange on his helmet always fools me, and I was so expecting to see Jacques there, but I think Jacques further back.
He is indeed. Michael Schumacher on lap 17, fastest race lap on last lap 1:57, on a track that may well be drying, but I can assure you, extremely treacherous. There's the battle. Frentzen pushing very hard. David Coulthard. Currently Coulthard runs in 6th place. And Johnny Herbert just ahead. So once again we're seeing this concertina of drivers and cars all around the circuit. The mix and match that we've seen from our wet race, once again providing excitement at a level that we really don't enjoy often enough.
Well, this of course is just what we want to see. Frentzen had a miserable day yesterday. He went off the road, and of course he didn't cover himself in glory. There's a lot of people criticising poor old Heinz Harrell's performance this year, but remember, he is in there with a great driver, his teammate David Coulthard. Let's just ride with Michael Schumacher. Oh, well, that was very brief, but nonetheless a little taste of what it's like from the driver's eye view. But of course, remember, his visor is a little bit cleaner. Villeneuve actually having a look down the inside there, should I say. It's not, it's Frentzen having a look down the inside there. I keep expecting to see Jacques making the moves, but he's not. He's further back making his own private move.
Damon Hill into the pits. The world champion. Is this a non-scheduled stop? Damon Hill comes in. More rubber goes on board. In fact, Damon had remained on a sort of semi-slick, semi-wet tire. So the world champion slow gets out 8 seconds. Slithers his way out of the pit lane. There we look. Great shots. This is the top of the ready on Mika Häkkinen. Johnny Herbert behind. This is the battle that's going on. 4th, 5th, 6th Coulthard, 7th Heinz Harald Frentzen. There is Heinz Harald Frentzen. And he's having a real afternoon fight with the Scot David Coulthard. Down at Stavelot. Lowest part of the track now, the long uphill climb. Facing the daunting double left of Blanchimont. Frentzen gets the drive off the corner, gets alongside David Coulthard. Does he get the job done? Coulthard is tough as granite, but he has to concede.
Well, he has to concede because he gets on that wet line and he can't be that brave because there isn't that much room. John Alesi clocks in a lap just a few tenths quicker than Michael Schumacher. But let's not forget, these guys cannot really afford to get on those white lines or those curves on the counter of the chicane because it's a straight line one. But on these fast curves and swerves, they daren't touch them because the water does not permeate the white lines or the red and white lines, and therefore the car will suddenly slide out of control. So you'll notice how immaculate they are. 42nd lap between Schumacher and Alesi.
Well, an enormous advantage to Michael Schumacher, and that all came from that very wise decision by a wise young man, Michael Schumacher, to run on those intermediate wet weather tyres. Giancarlo Fisichella running in 3rd place, behind 2nd Jean Alesi. We're going to take a quick break as the field streams past us up at Les Combes. Join us here in a moment. Welcome back, and the battle still between Johnny Herbert in the Sauber Petronas and Heinz Harald Frentzen. That's for 5th and 6th places. There we see the gap between Fisichella in 3rd, Mika Häkkinen in 4th, just 2.1 seconds. 4th to 5th, 1.8 seconds. There, right behind, is David Coulthard. Now, he was overtaken by Frentzen, and he's just beginning to drop back. The rain again, Derek. Rain up at Les Combes. There has been rain falling since that commercial break. So danger once again in Spa-Francorchamps.
Unbelievable, this track. It can rain for 3 or 4 corners and it gradually sinks it round the hill. What you don't understand, everybody at home, I probably can't see, is that it's really in a valley. And there's these steep hills either side, and you can stand in the pits and look up at blue sky, but right behind that hill is this massive lot of cloud coming in, and it's suddenly, oh dear, it's pouring with rain down at Stavelot. And here we have it. It's raining on one part of the circuit and not on the other.
Derek Bell, race driver, in these circumstances on this racetrack, what are you going to do?
You're just going to stay out as long as you're doing reasonable times, and when too much of the track gets wet, you've got to come in, but there's no point in coming in, losing time and putting on intermediates when the track might dry out, so you stick it out as long as you can. And of course the pits pay a great importance in this, but to me, you know, if the track's dry, the wet tyre will just not work, and here it is, the track is bone dry on this part of the circuit as they work their way down to Stavelot. So what is the point of coming in? So you have to toss the things up in the air. But of course, in the 6-hour races we used to do, you had a lot of tossing up to do during 6 hours.
Well, we're down at the lowest part of the circuit, and there's no rain at this time there. It's only up at the very high part. Frentzen dives up the inside of Herbert. What a courageous move by the German, but really one that was never on. Johnny Herbert had it covered. He was watching in his mirrors. He shut the door. Frentzen knew he could not take the risk, but of course he compromised himself into a better overtaking slot that was coming into the bus stop chicane.
Yes, he could. Well, he did compromise himself, and I think that is the place he should be looking at. The problem is they pick up momentum. Now here we have one of the Minardis off. We haven't seen much of them this race doing anything in any of the conditions, but out in the pity litter, not quite sure just where that is at a quick glance, John. Here the guys are working their way down the hill to Eau Rouge, which is bone dry, let us say.
But as they come out of Eau Rouge up over the Rédillon, they make their way up this long Camel straight up to Les Combes. Tarso Marquez, the young Brazilian, he's out. But let's get back. There's Fisichella. There's Mika Häkkinen. Johnny Herbert. Frentzen this time tries to get the job done on a damp track. No, Johnny says.
No way, says Johnny. Very, very difficult to go by in these conditions, but you take a chance, hope the guy in front's looking in his mirror and goes, oh, backs out of it, and you just dip through on the inside and get him. But I mean, Johnny Herbert's been there a long time, a very wise operator, done a lot of racing, that won the Le Mans 24-hour race, so he knows what it's like to drive for long times in very dodgy conditions. All kinds of experience that you can gain over the years really comes to play in a racetrack like this, and there it is as they sweep down the hill now. It's damp as they go down here towards Stavelot. Interesting to note, though, that Alesi has caught up 3 seconds on Michael Schumacher in the last 2 laps.
Jacques Villeneuve, we just see him overtake. Oh, and onto the grass. Is it for Jacques? The Canadian sneaks. Yes, he does. He sneaks across the grass up at Les Combes. He had just taken 9th place away from Jos Verstappen. That was the car we saw in the background, the white Tyrrell, with Jos Verstappen's familiar white and deep burgundy helmet. Williams' team wonder what has gone wrong. But back to Frentzen in his charge up to the back again of Johnny Herbert. Don't worry about Blanchimont. It's a hard place to pass. Work it out. Get the job done if you're going to do it into the bus stop.
But of course the moisture does hang. These trees hold the moisture, and you can see there as he tries to come in. Yes, he does. No, he doesn't, but he's locking up all the wheels, trying to keep it together, straighten the car out. And of course it's very, very difficult to do that. But Johnny didn't have a very good run out of there because he was confused by it all. But of course Johnny's got the inside line into La Source. He holds it, pushes Frentzen out a bit wide. Sorry, son, you're not going through just yet. But off they come and go down the hill.
Oh no, David Coulthard is out. David Coulthard, who had been running in 6th place, has dropped out. His race is over. Looks down at Stavelot. I remember a great song, Derek, written by Chris Rea. It was about Johnny Herbert. The song was titled Johnny Needs a Fast Car. Well, he's got a pretty fast car this afternoon.
But not fast enough, I don't think, because Frenzsen's going by. Frenzsen's got the dry line, gone by, takes him, pushes him to the inside, sweeps back to get the line now for Les Combes. That's it, Johnny. You need a faster car than that. And sweeps through here. Remember, it is damp as they go over the top. See a slightly damp line, but it's drying out because the rain has passed by. But you can see rain over those hills in the distance. The camera just caught a lot of cloud up there, so it's still dampness in the air.
So let's go quickly through the top 6 as we can see it. We've got Michael Schumacher, Jean Alesi, Giancarlo Fisichella, Mika Häkkinen, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Johnny Herbert. Stay with us. We'll be back here in Spa in a moment. Back to Spa-Francorchamps. We're on lap 22 of 44, exactly half distance. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, there we see him rushing up towards the back of Mika Häkkinen, who in turn is rushing up towards the rear. You see it, the top of your screen, that light yellow car. That's young Italian Giancarlo Fisichella, but listen to Mika. Ralf Schumacher is out of the race. He is shunted as he came out of Les Combes and Malmedy corners. Let's have a look at it once again. The young German having a really disappointing afternoon. Remember, he spun on the outlap on the way to the grid. He had to jump into Fisichella's spare. A case of too much right foot, a wet curb on the left-hand side. Car turned sharp right, Derek.
Well, that's just a classic example of what I said 3 or 4 minutes ago. Wow, he had a nasty impact there, really whacked in there, but you cannot afford to get on those white lines, and you just saw a classic example. The race right now is in a very difficult situation. You have a damp track, then it dries. You arrive at the corner next time and it's got damp again. And it's a very dodgy situation to be in when you get these conditions varying like this, because you don't know when you arrive there. Schumacher arrived there, but he shouldn't have got on that white line. That's where the water, it doesn't permeate it. There's no way that you can be positive that you can slide the car out wide. You've got to keep it neat and tidy within those white lines.
Derek, again, you can see rain has fallen up at the top of the circuit. That's probably what caught Ralf Schumacher out. The Louis had rained 6 laps ago. It's appeared to stop, then it appears to have rained between laps 22 and lap 23 that we're on now. So Schumacher maybe just caught out by inexperience. Battle going on in 3rd place. Mika Häkkinen right behind Giancarlo Fisichella, but it's Jean Alesi who we're thinking about now. His Benetton team have laid out for Alesi to come in for a stop. His advantage over Fisichella around about 18 seconds. It's probably nip and tuck if Alesi can get in and out before the Italian comes through. No, there it is. Alesi in the pits now. Start counting. There, Ralf Schumacher being driven back in safety. Ralf, little thumbs up to the German fans. Alesi in the pits. But those seconds, Derek, count down.
They certainly, I thought Schumacher was actually thumbing his nose personally, but he wasn't at all happy with that. Because don't forget, Alesi was the first one to put slicks on. Look at the brake material come away, the carbon brake material. Here he is, fresh slicks. He was the first one in for slicks, so naturally he's the first one in again for a top-up and slicks again. A very quick lap, pit stop, but of course it probably puts him back behind the guys. Here they come down the hill, so he is now behind, probably in 4th place, behind...
No, he's come out behind Frentzen, so he's dropped all the way down to 6th place. But remember, Fisichella now running in 2nd place, Hakkinen 3rd, Frentzen 4th, Herbert 5th. So Jean Alesi returns in 6th place, 23 laps in the record book this afternoon. There is your order. Johnny Herbert is 6th, so we wait to see. Alesi is 5th, I beg your pardon. I'm not sure that's quite right. It doesn't look like it on the road. We wait for confirmation. But the battle that is now in 2nd place, Fisichella, Mika Hakkinen, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and Johnny Herbert. They come down through the Rivage, drop down this very slippery downhill 3rd gear left-hand corner, pick up speed 4th gear, 5th gear. They come down to the wonderfully long Puho corner, drop down 1 gear, enter in 4th, pick up the throttle, 5th gear on the exit, 6th gear now.
Well, this is exactly, of course, what these guys at Elkhart Lake found last week in the kart race. Dodgy, varying conditions, nasty situation to be in. Have to be very, very careful just how you place the car on the road. And every lap you come round, a different situation. The moisture does hang under the trees, in some places worse than others on these forest-lined circuits. But this is the circuit that sorts the men out from the boys. A real driver's circuit, and of course, in these varying conditions, very, very difficult to understand. You have to look up to the sky almost as much as you do down on the road.
Well, we're in a slight lull. I mean, this is an unexciting moment. You imagine what the rest of the race has been like. And there we see Frentzen dived off into the... No, maybe that was that Frentzen? It is indeed. Frentzen has dived off into pits. So Williams, Frentzen, who had been in 4th place, comes in for what would be hopefully his final stop of the day. But it's still a long way to go, Derek. We're a little over half distance. I don't think Williams will have the fuel capacity to do the remaining 18 laps of this afternoon's Grand Prix. It's going to be a real tight call on fuel.
It does seem very odd indeed, John, because you would obviously, they don't use generally as much fuel, of course, in the wet, but you wouldn't have thought that he had destroyed his tyres, because you're very restricted by the amount of overtaking he had been doing, and of course the track is totally dry. So who knows what the situation is there, but we'll time and the race will roll out and we'll just see.
Well, Jarno Trulli suddenly popped up into the frame. Gerhard Berger out again. So Fisichella under real pressure now from finish Mika Hakkinen. There we see Jarno Trulli. Well, he's just been overtaken and lapped way, way down in 17th place and having a thoroughly miserable race when he should have been having a great one. Giancarlo Fisichella remains in 2nd place. Mika Hakkinen charges in 3rd. We're going to take a break as Eddie Jordan looks at the screen. Join us back in a moment. Belgium, this man Giancarlo Fisichella, some 55 seconds behind race leader Michael Schumacher, and in turn he's about a second and a half clear of Mika Hakkinen in the sole remaining McLaren Mercedes this afternoon. Teammate to Fisichella, of course, Ralf Schumacher. He spun out, hit the barrier on the exit of Malmedy. They're the respective best lap, last lap times for this 2nd place battle that has really been raging on now for some 6 laps, Derek.
Yes, they're having a great time. Fisichella is, in a way, they might say, is slightly holding them up, but Hakkinen isn't exactly all over the back of him at the moment. He's just sort of keeping his distance. Maybe he's just saying, okay, I'll steady myself down. I'll be going in soon for tyres and some fuel. It's not worth getting too involved in the dice at this stage. Keep my distance, pace myself, and then pick it up. Remember, Mika's had a pretty horrendous weekend. He had this terrible crash yesterday as one of the Tyrrells.
Jos Verstappen it is down. We think that's done at Rivage as well. Jos Verstappen, that's the corner he had a problem with in test and qualifying. So, big disappointment. There we see the Dutchman down in a Rivage. The car, just the back end of the car. Again, weather just seems to come in little bursts of rain. One lap to the other. There it is. Barely any damage, Derek. But
well, here you go, watch it. You see, he's stuck there in front of him. He sees in his mirrors, he sees that he's got Irvine behind him, a Ferrari zooming up on him. He gets his little bit of attention is taken away from his drive. He gets the right wheel out on that damp as he comes through Rivage, and he is history. We said just now, you cannot afford to get offline anyway. You have to concentrate so hard, and that's what makes great drivers great drivers.
Well, Jos the boss, the Dutchman, and all those fans, of course, Holland, Belgium, Luxembourg, they form what's known in Europe as the Benelux countries, 3 small countries, very influential politically, but small in terms of population and small in terms of total area. But for Jos Verstappen and those tens of thousands of people that have come here to watch him race, well, they'll be streaming back to the car parks and leaving this afternoon's Grand Prix. Great shame they're going to miss a brilliant Grand Prix. This, I think, has got to be the Grand Prix of the season to date, Derek.
Well, it certainly is in my book, John. I love Spa. It's a man circuit. It's 4 miles round. I mean, it's something else as far as driving. Here's another great shot. I'm sure Verstappen doesn't think so, but it's a classic example. He gets his wheels out on that damp, and he is history. And I just hope they don't leave that car there all the time, because I think it's a pretty dangerous position. However, the dice is still going on. Fisichella just clocked in quickest lap of the race, I believe. And so he is easing away, perhaps bit by bit, from Mika Hakkinen, but not very much. Mika's attentions are all there, and he's just there. I think he's just pacing himself until the pit stop. The track is getting drier in majority of places, lap by lap, so it gives you the bigger opportunity to overtake. And I think that's what Mika's finding at the moment. That car incidentally in the background is David Coulthard's car that retired early. I have a feeling that he actually damaged the front wheel, but nevertheless we haven't had any confirmation of this.
Well, as we get to the top of the hour, let's look at our leaderboard. Michael Schumacher with a comfortable lead, around about a minute from Giancarlo Fisichella. Mika Hakkinen runs close in third. John Alesi fourth. Johnny Herbert still in fifth. And Jacques Villeneuve, having had all kinds of problems all day, he's the contender for this year's championship with race leader Michael Schumacher. He is in 6th place. We've had now 6 retirements. Rubens Barrichello, Shinji Nakano, David Coulthard, Tarso Marquez, Ralf Schumacher, and last retirement we just saw a minute ago, Dutchman Jos Verstappen in the tower wall with the Tyrrell Ford.
Hakkinen got the quickest lap. Now that was a wonderful shot of down the hill, past the old pits, through a Rivage, and not the hill through the radio, and the car is released. It's like your whole head, your stomach, and everything gets pushed down into the seat. We call it compression. The whole of your body gets pushed down in, released up the hill, and here we go. Alesi slipping by as he goes down the inside to overtake, I guess, Trulli, who's way down on the grid. Johnny Herbert's just behind. Alesi not far behind at all, in 5th place.
So Jean Alesi trying to keep in contact and losing a little bit of time as he can't make a way past Jarno Trulli. He can't risk getting off the dry line. And the Italian in the Prost Mugen Honda didn't make life easy. Remember, Trulli over a lap down, and again Johnny losing time, hand over fist. And let's see his hand come out of the cockpit. And well, he didn't, but he certainly cut the nose of Trulli's Prost. And that was a signal to say, I'm not very impressed with Trulli as a driver. The etiquette, not very good.
But if I was Trulli, man, there's no way I was going to pull across on the wet just to let another guy go by and put myself in a very dangerous position, John.
Now, Derek, if you and I had been racing in that situation, I know you'd have given way to me, because I would have done it to you.
I don't know about it.
We're going to, and while we're working this problem out in the booth, we'll go to a commercial break and join us back here in a moment as we expect Michael Schumacher to increase that lead. Schumacher rejoins this afternoon's Belgian Grand Prix. He still retains the lead. He had 52 seconds advantage over second place Fisichella. He came in for his second and final stop of the afternoon and will be back out in the lead. There's the battle going on for 5th place. Jacques Villeneuve currently running in 6th. Runs by, well, that's in fact, it looks like Jarno Trulli. So that is not a battle for 5th place, but ahead of Trulli is Johnny Herbert. Big skid marks down there. That might have been David Coulthard. That could be the reason why Coulthard retired.
It looked to me just like his left front wheel was at an rather obtuse angle. Hakkinen's in the pits for a change of tyres and fuel. Here he comes. These guys could well be coming a little early. They're coming in, they're putting fresh rubber on. That means when they go out, they can pick up a lot of time on these opening laps, and that's, I feel, why Schumacher came in earlier than he did before to come in to make benefit of brand new tyres.
Well, Michael Schumacher is the only driver, as we look at Tarso Marquez, the Brazilian who we saw retire earlier in the race. Michael Schumacher is the only driver in this race, Derek, who has been able to stick to his pre-programmed race strategy. Everybody else has gone out of sync because of the wet weather conditions we saw at the start of this afternoon's Grand Prix. Then they went from wets to dries and everything has gone wrong. Schumacher is comfortable. Everybody else is still working it out.
Well, let's just remember, do you remember the days of Benetton when he was there with Benetton and obviously Ross Brawn, the amazing pit strategies and pit stop strategies that defeated many, many other drivers in the races? It was incredible strategy. And of course, Ross Brawn is now there with Michael Schumacher at Ferrari. Schumacher is very, very clever when it comes to these pit stop strategies. And of course, with Ross Brawn there to help him, you can bet your life you're having a similar situation to we had in 94 and 93 at Benetton.
So you can have the right engine, but you've got to have the right driver driving it. And in my opinion, Michael Schumacher is the cream of the crop. Jacques Villeneuve currently in 5th place and making a really great recovery drive, having got it wrong. There is the Williams team, and I anticipate that will be either Villeneuve or Frentzen. And I couldn't be wrong on either of those choices, could I, Derek?
You're getting clever by the minute, John, but Villeneuve, I feel, will be coming in. He needs those fresh tyres, as we said just now, to give him that run to the end, but obviously he's running quite light at the moment, lower on fuel than you would have thought. So, of course, he's going to come in. The sun is out now. You can see the shadows as they go uphill. As I said, remember, an hour and a half ago, this track was 100 degrees. Then the rain, and it's probably back up to the early 80s again as far as ambient's concerned. So the track is drying out all the time. You're going to see some quick laps coming in soon.
Villeneuve comes through the bus stop chicane, and we see Ukio Katayama in the Minardi Hart. There'll be a stop. Of course, Minardi is running way, way down the field. That little brown Hart V8 not really getting the job done. But a new V10 being designed, manufactured by the man from Harlow in Essex, England. And that could be an engine that's in the back of an Arrows next year. Eddie Irvine in for his second service of the afternoon. Eddie Irvine in 8th place and really having a rather lackluster weekend. It started badly and it's never really improved.
Well, you see on Friday, of course, we had rain all day. Nobody could sort their cars out. People from last year with similar cars obviously had a pretty good balance. Irvine's having a reasonably good or very good stop there. And of course, Eddie had a bad time. We say he had a bad time, but of course, even Schumacher didn't have a very good time. So let's just remember that Eddie has never quite been up there with Michael Schumacher. And if Schumacher's having a bad time with the car, then Eddie must be having a diabolical time with the car.
And it's very interesting, Derek, that Michael Schumacher opted to race his spare car. That's the heavier of the two Ferraris he had available, the F310B, the lightweight car with a bigger fuel capacity. He didn't like it. He couldn't get the car to work. So he thought rather than taking the risk, he'd go with percentages, went back into his original car he ran virtually all year. In fact, he should have run in Hungary, but he damaged that car on Sunday morning. So let's look at Heinz-Harald Frentzen as he crests the radio, looks to take one of those tear-offs off his helmet, hasn't got one left.
That's a pity, I bet he's saying. The thing is, you have to then use the little bit of leather on the back of your glove, wipe it across and pray and hope it doesn't smear. Of all the places you race, this is the one you need the perfect visibility. Fisichella's in the pits for a refuel and of course for some tyres. There he goes by, and of course there are the Williams team right ready for one of the two Williams to come in and top up as well.
Once again, the pit lane is going to be a hive of activity. The Jordan team, good stop indeed from the men from Silverstone. And Giancarlo Fisichella, Johnny Herbert comes in, and there, is it Villeneuve or is it Frentzen? I think it's Villeneuve in the Williams pops in. It must be because he would have been behind. It is Villeneuve behind Johnny Herbert. So we've got Fisichella just going out, Johnny Herbert in, and this is a real battle for top 6 points. Johnny Herbert gets the job done. Villeneuve comes out behind him. Now this battle between the Brit in the Sauber Petronas, the Canadian in the Williams Renault, is going to be a real focus of attention. But this man, Michael Schumacher, dominant by a capital D this afternoon, cruises comfortably. This is going to be a sweet, sweet drive for the German. And remember, he only lives about 50 miles from this racetrack across the border in Germany.
Well, he used to before he made a fortune, of course. Now, of course, he lives down in Switzerland. He couldn't afford to live in Germany right now on his millions. Nevertheless, his home was certainly just down the road. His problem now is concentration. He has to concentrate every split second of the way. He had to do it in the wet. When your concentration is up so high in the wet, there's no doubt about it, you are concentrating. But as soon as it starts to get dry, you sometimes have to work at keeping that concentration up.
Well, Michael Schumacher completes another lap 32. So we're going to take a quick commercial break and rejoin the leader in a moment. Welcome back. There is the order: Schumacher, Fisichella, Häkkinen, Frentzen, Herbert, Alesi. John Alesi, in fact, did go into the pits, so that order will change as we come across the line for the 34th time. Casual in the Ferrari pits. It might be the best acting we're seeing here this afternoon. Michael Schumacher, out of Le Source, drops down a very steep hill, about a 1:9 decline, Derek. While he climbs up the 1:6 incline as he makes his way up through the radio onto the straight, down this long straight, Col Camel, or Camel, however you pronounce it, in Flemish or in French, because this is a bilingual country. We're in Belgium. Oh dear me, Jan Magnussen in trouble at the bus stop chicane, clobbers the curb and the marker cones. Back to race leader Michael Schumacher out of Malmedy, drops down into Rivage. Michael Schumacher on lap 34 has a 43.5 second advantage over Giancarlo Fisichella. Further 6 seconds. John Alesi, of course, was in second place. That pit stop has dropped him down, we think, to sixth place. We're waiting for confirmation. Frentzen is fourth. Yes, there it is. Alesi is fifth. Johnny Herbert is in fifth place. But that advantage Michael Schumacher has now. It should be a run to the end. Pedro Diniz, the young Brazilian, into the pits. Was it out? It's a very long way to the Arrows Yamaha pits there at the very end of it. Damon Hill, of course, sadly appears to have disappeared. We don't know whether that was a retirement. We haven't seen him on screen or in the order for some time. But let's look at this battle right now on the long uphill Camel Straight. Seventh place, Jacques Villeneuve all the way down in eighth, and this order has seesawed all day, and that's largely because the team starting this Grand Prix on wet tyres, they lost that order they'd pre-planned. The Benetton team, no, it's not, in fact, is that yes, it is the Benetton team, are preparing for Gerhard Berger to make what will be his final stop. The two Benettons running line astern, John Alesi sixth, Gerhard Berger seventh, and Jacques Villeneuve eighth. That will all change when Berger comes into the pits. Certainly for Villeneuve, he'll go from 8th down to 7th. That's the easy way to do it. On lap 35, the order is Schumacher, Fisichella, Häkkinen, Frentzen, Herbert, Alesi. There, those almost space shuttle-like helmets to protect the engineers during refueling. Jacques Villeneuve, what an afternoon he's had to contend with. Driven superbly, but strategy-wise, it's been topsy-turvy.
You know the helmet, you saw the helmet on the refueling gentleman there. He leans in the car. Do you know how he knows when to take that refueling spout actually off the car? A red light comes on in front of his eyes in his helmet from the control, and immediately knows that's the amount of fuel's gone in. Otherwise, how would he know?
I think he must be wearing a racing driver's helmet with a red light inside it, and that's the case. Derek Berger in the pits gets his last refuel and tyres. Great stop, 5.8 seconds. Didn't need to put too much fuel on board as a late-ish stop. So we've got some 10 laps remaining of this afternoon's Grand Prix. So we're going to take this opportunity for a quick break as Villeneuve hunts down Jean Alesi for that final single point. We look at Craig Pollock there in the pits. That, of course, is Jacques Villeneuve's manager and could be team boss in a couple of years' time. But Villeneuve, very racy indeed as he slipstreams off, and runs almost on the grass. One side, back, cuts to the left. Jean Alesi is not going to concede. Renault power for both cars, but Villeneuve does it under brakes. But that was scary, Derek, at the top of radio.
Yes, it certainly was indeed. He really whipped from side to side there, but he's a very confident man in Jacques, and anybody that can win Indianapolis, win the kart title, he is some kind of a man. Frank Williams looking on there, the team boss of Jacques' team, knows that Jacques is now in a position to pick up just one solitary point. Still 8 laps to go or something. Lots can happen in that time. Here we watch the overtake pass again. Alesi actually basically let him go, John. If I was Alesi, I think I'd have moved across on him as we came up the hill there, but it was very tight judgment for Alesi to do so, and he just backed off and let him go. And you can see already that Jacques is pulling away. Remember, Jacques was on pole position and Alesi was second position. Michael Schumacher was third, so we're running to form a little bit now as far as these two are concerned, but Michael is well away as far as his position on the track is concerned. Let's just hope he can keep that momentum up and the car running.
Michael Schumacher still comfortably in the lead, but just looking at Alesi and Villeneuve, you know, teams may have taken the opportunity before this afternoon's Grand Prix started in those appalling wet conditions. They may have gone to a halfway house car setup in terms of wing settings. They may have done something mechanical on the car. Alesi, I would have expected to have been able to have defended much more vigorously Jacques Villeneuve, but clearly unable to do so. And I suspect that Alesi's car really had a more, let's say, middle-of-the-road setup than Villeneuve's, which was still very much on a dry setup. Frentzen bashes his way through the bus stop chicane. Frentzen, the leading Williams driver this afternoon. Giancarlo Fisichella, superb run in second place, has driven flawlessly. Comes up to Damon Hill. Damon Hill, Pedro Diniz in the two Arrow Yamahas starred in the early laps in this race when the track was wet. Remember, they started on the softer, the optional Bridgestone tyre, and I believe that that tyre now is working against them, and they're not being able to run anywhere near as competitively as their competitors.
It's obviously a great pity, but that's the gamble you take. They knew that yesterday in qualifying, and it's probably one of the reasons they got such tremendous laps yesterday during qualifying was that softer lap. Remember, it is 4.3 miles around, and that's where the soft tyre would really start to work exceptionally well. Quickest lap at the moment has gone to Gerhard Berger. He's really got it together this afternoon, but of course he started too far back on the grid.
Giancarlo Fisichella, and I'm sure that the Jordan team are telling him just stay calm, you're in a very strong, secure second place. Mika Häkkinen isn't a threat. 7 laps of this afternoon's Grand Prix remain. And on lap 38, Damon Hill, as mentioned, just ahead and really now beginning to struggle. There is team principal Eddie Jordan. Still waiting for that first Jordan Grand Prix win. It looks so close in the German Grand Prix. Eddie says, I don't want my car to be acknowledged as being a fast track car. I want it to perform well everywhere. Well, this is a fast track and the car has performed extremely well. Disappointment, of course, Ralf Schumacher. We saw him retire when he had that incident at the top of the hill going through the Malmedy corner. So down to one car for the Jordan team, but if they can retain 6th place in the championship, those 6 points for Jordan will bring them up to 25 points, and that would see Jordan up to 5th place in the Constructors' Championship.
Very, very good for Eddie. At the moment, as they're running, Schumacher is a 35-second lead over Fisichella at this time. We don't know just quite what it is he has over Mika Häkkinen, but certainly Frentzen is fairly close there to the back of Mika Häkkinen. And there's Patrick Head, the technical director and really the manager of the TEL team at Williams, checking it out with Frank Williams and discussing just what is going on out there. I wonder what they'll be talking about tomorrow when they discuss where they went wrong at the beginning over tyre setup.
Derek, this takes me all the way back 2 years ago, 95 season. Damon Hill dominated the first half of the season for Williams. Then it all went wrong, and it was caused, in my view, by the pressure that was applied by Schumacher and the Benetton team. And I have to think that Williams, when they're under extreme pressure, as they are right now in this year's championship, begin to show flaws, whereas other people, principally Schumacher, Ross Brawn and the Ferrari team, are able to retain their composure. 6 laps remain. That's my little theory.
But to me, John, I think it's something to do with the fact that the driver, there has to be total teamwork here. And I believe the fact is that Schumacher works so perfectly along with Ross Brawn and his team. And it seems that maybe Williams just aren't quite as close, because to me, it's down to the driver to make that call. And it's the driver's decision what tyres to put on and when. And when we saw Schumacher on the grid, he just did not have his tyres uncovered at all virtually until the green flag went. And then, of course, out they come. Oh dear, he's on intermediate.
Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 4th, and he's gunning down Mika Häkkinen in 3rd. So as this battle now hops up for 3rd place, we're going to take this opportunity when things are relatively quiet to catch the final flush of action. Welcome back to Spa in Belgium. Race leader Michael Schumacher still comfortably ahead of 2nd place Giancarlo Fisichella, approximately 35 seconds. That's the distance. We're now on lap 40, and there will be 4 remaining at the end of this lap. We've seen Jean Alesi. Look, Michael Schumacher on dry tyres, pulls over onto the wet line, Derek. Indication that all may not be as well with Michael Schumacher as we have been led to believe.
Well, what he's doing, John, is he's going out there to cool the tyres down. Obviously, the car's sliding around a lot. He knows the tyres aren't working as well as they should, so he's keeping the temperature on the car down. It's interesting that he's doing it, and we haven't seen anybody else do it yet. But of course, I don't expect anybody seeing Michael do that. He's just cooling his tyres down, so he's got them if he needs it. 35-second lead with 4 laps to go isn't that much, John.
Well, I think what Michael Schumacher might have done is what we anticipate for Jean Alesi. Alesi had been running in 6th place, but he lost that to Jacques Villeneuve. Then Alesi, another one onto the wet line. Many of these cars and drivers, I think, Derek, had their teams change the cars mechanically before the race started.
Yes, I think they did indeed, and I think we just saw Heinz-Harald Frentzen there actually going out on that wet line as well, just to try and cool his tyres as well. Very, well, not very clever, quite normal. Amazing, an in-car drive there with Heinz-Harald Frentzen as he comes up the hill towards the bus stop. Wonderful to see that total commitment, foot to the floor, flat through the corner as he goes through Blanchimont up to the chicane.
Well, there are our top 4. The main interest really, some 8 seconds behind Fisichella is Mika Häkkinen, but then Frentzen just 1.8 seconds behind Häkkinen. Johnny Herbert a further 7.8 seconds behind Frentzen. Villeneuve in 6th place now. Can Villeneuve get the job done and run down Johnny Herbert for that 5th place and 2 great points? Should the positions stay as they are, Michael Schumacher will move on to 66 points. Jacques Villeneuve would move to 54, a difference of 12. That's more than 1 race victory points and gives Michael Schumacher an enormous setup for the Italian Grand Prix, the one that will follow Belgium in 2 weeks' time.
Well, you can see Frentzen there sliding the car out of the turns. We noticed it when we actually had the in-car stuff as well. Shows that he obviously had that intermediate setup on his suspension. The car rolling a little bit more, and of course to get the rolls a bit more to get it more grip in the wet, but at the same time when the dry it rolls and overheats those outside tyres. So he has to be very careful now that he doesn't destroy the tyres. He wants to retain his position. And of course, Jacques Villeneuve may well have gone with a hard setting. We don't know. Whatever it is, Jacques might be having an overheating problem with his tyres as well.
Look at down there in Stablo. Again, listen to Frentzen all the way up the hill. Well, this time a little bit of break-up as Frentzen comes up through Blanchimont. Still chasing Mika Häkkinen in 3rd place. So battles not just for the drivers, it's for the Constructors' Championship. So as Fisichella flashes across the line with 3 laps remaining in 2nd place, we're going to take a commercial break and join this race for its conclusion. Welcome back. Jacques Villeneuve still remains in 6th place, still chasing Johnny Herbert in the Sauber Petronas, and clearly that Sauber sufficiently out of sight as we are now within 2 laps of the conclusion of this afternoon's 44th Belgian Grand Prix here in Spa-Francorchamps race that began in torrential conditions behind the safety car. Safety car pulled off after 3 laps, and it was the German Michael Schumacher who stole the advantage on a set of semi-wet Goodyear tyres. He just ran off into the distance. This man on a full set of wets went backwards. He made 1 stop to put on a set of semi-slicks, which was a mistake. He should have put on slicks or stayed out. Heinz-Harald Frentzen still battles for 4th place. He's trying to catch Mika Häkkinen and McLaren Mercedes for 3rd. There's the gap. 2 laps remaining for these 2. Häkkinen will defend. Frentzen will attack.
But of course Frentzen has this tyre problem, it seemed like, from the shots we've been seeing of him. He's sliding the car a lot. Very difficult to attack somebody when you got a pretty bad oversteer situation. Dashing through the Radion, up the hill, trying to keep it flat as they come up there. It becomes more difficult as the tyres go away. You can feel the instability as you go to turn in, the instability as you're in the corner, and of course the instability as the car releases itself up over the brow of the Radion. Streaking up the hill, 190 miles an hour, under braking into Les Combes. Then to work their way back down again. Of course, there's Johnny Herbert, followed by Jacques Villeneuve behind. Jacques would dearly love to get in front of Johnny to get those extra points, but it's going to be difficult with only 2 laps to go.
Well, this It's lap 43, the penultimate of the 44 laps of this afternoon's Grand Prix. Jacques Villeneuve will walk away from this race thinking, well, opportunities that have been lost will be very hard to recover when I go to Italy in 2 weeks' time. That's the home of Ferrari. And with a Tifosi there supporting Ferrari, Michael Schumacher and Eddie Irvine, it's got to be hostile territory for the Williams boys.
Yes, I would like to go there. I remember 2 years ago when Damon went down there after the debacle with Schumacher. I mean, there was all sorts of troubles when he went to Germany, then on down to Monza. It's not very nice for them sometimes when they go down there, but the Italians are so enthusiastic about their motor racing. Everything is Ferrari and Formula One.
So Michael Schumacher is now on his final lap as he drops down through Eau Rouge for the last time on a racing lap, up over Radio, comes up this long straight.
That was a wonderful shot there from the helicopter, showing the car just nipping down through Eau Rouge and up the hill from Reading. I just hope you at home have got a good idea as to just how sort of topsy-turvy, sweepy turns this circuit really is. Magnificent place to race on, and as he goes rounds on his last lap, he knows he's got a 31-second lead, and he'll be going, I've won, I'm winning on the greatest track in the world. Absolutely magnificent for him. Looks like Damon Hill's in the pits, couldn't even make it into the actual pit to get the tires on, but let's just see what happens. All the Ferrari boys hanging over the wall there with enthusiasm to greet their maestro as he brings the car around on its last lap. Listen to the crowd.
The entire Ferrari team, Billy Weber, manager of Schumacher Brothers, Michael Schumacher on his last lap. Let's just listen as the world champion ×2 makes his way now in the second half of the lap back up to take checkered flag after 44 great laps. Takes checkered flag as Eddie Irvine has contact, and I don't know if that was Pedro Diniz or Damon Hill up at Les Combes, but Michael Schumacher wins his 26th Grand Prix out of 97 career starts. In doing so, he eclipses the late great Jim Clark and Nicky Lauda. They had 25 wins apiece. So now the next target for Michael Schumacher is Jackie Stewart, three-time world champion, who had 99 starts, 27 wins. Great finish for Giancarlo Fisichella, in second place for Jordan Peugeot. Mika Häkkinen comes across third, Heinz-Harald Frentzen fourth, Johnny Herbert should be fifth, there he is, comes across the line. Jacques Villeneuve a disappointing sixth on that final point.
And in fact there was some smoke coming out of Villeneuve's car as he went into the bus stop on the last stop.
We think that was Pedro Diniz up at Les Combes with Eddie Irvine, but there Michael Schumacher is in Parc Fermé. We're going to take a quick commercial break, join us in a moment. Welcome back to Belgium, to Spa-Francorchamps, and Michael Schumacher, Giancarlo Fisichella and Mika Häkkinen climb the steps to the winner's podium, and what joy and delight on the face of this young 28-year-old German. Won 4 times now here in Spa-Francorchamps. First victory came for Benetton Ford in 1992, then he won in 95 for Benetton Renault, and last year for Ferrari, so back-to-back Ferrari Schumacher wins. Absolutely brilliant, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, 4 wins, the same as the great Ayrton Senna, and I have to put him in the same bracket as Ayrton. He's drove like an absolute master. You'd never see anything like it. We've seen drives like this from him before, but again, Spa in the rain, Michael Schumacher driving off. I don't care what tyres you're on. It was an outstanding piece of driving, and I hope you at home realise that we saw a bit of history today. He always looks happy. It is wonderful to see a man who wins a great race smiling at the end of it. He just gives everything, gives his all, and he is the ultimate, I think, maestro driver at this time. Outstanding. Just can't believe it. Look at his face. Incredulous. If ever a bloke stamped his authority on the race, John, that was it today. He overtook the young Jacques Villeneuve, hoping to beat him, who's dominated practice. He overtook him, went off and left him and said, I am going to be world champion. Long way to go yet, but my goodness, what a stirring drive.
Indeed, winning a Grand Prix isn't just about being fast, it's about being intelligent. And Schumacher and Ferrari gave us a great demonstration of that quality this afternoon.
Fisichella, he had a great drive in my opinion as well, John. It's his highest place, second place. Did a great job. He had a lot of pressure on him the whole time. You saw him overtake Jacques Villeneuve early on in the race, maintained that position. Plus, us sitting here, home, wherever, you cannot believe how difficult it was in those conditions to keep the car on the road. Tremendous to see such technical, such mental work, such incredible confidence these drivers have, and ability, of course.
Indeed, and of course, with Michael Schumacher's win, that takes him to 66 points in the championship. Jacques Villeneuve some 12 behind in 54. Malaysia remains in third with 22. And also Heinz-Harald Frentzen joins him on 22. Gerhard Berger in fifth place with 20. But Fisichella and that Jordan Peugeot, Derek, I reckon in Monza in 2 weeks' time, that young man and his car and team are going to be a serious threat for the position Michael Schumacher's enjoying right now. That's the winner's podium. But look at the joy on the face of Michael Schumacher. I think every win's a sweet win, but this one I think has got a particular sweetness this afternoon.
Oh yes, he did do it in pit stops. He did it purely by tremendous ability, wonderful teamwork with Ross Brawn, his technical director. Incredible piece of work by them all, I think. Everybody up front, I'm just disappointed in Williams. I think they made errors today that they should really go back and analyse where they're going wrong. The car has the ability to win, John, so does Villeneuve, but somehow they're not doing it right. Jean Todt comes up to kiss his man, to say thank you very much, great drive.
Indeed, even a great praise to Mika Häkkinen. Remember, the guy was in all sorts of trouble over the weekend. We saw that incident on qualifying on Saturday when he had a problem on Saturday morning. He was a little bit winded, then he had a further shunt on Sunday morning during the warm-up in the spare car. So great credit to the McLaren Mercedes team to get one of their two cars home and on the podium, and a valuable 4 points for McLaren in the Constructors' Championship. Doesn't change their position, they go from 28 to 32. Jordan, of course, moved further forward. They've overtaken Prost, Mugen in that Constructors' Championship, but Ferrari now with 84 points in the championship, almost 20 points, 18 points ahead of Williams. We'll work it out in a minute, but there we see the silver Moet Chandon trophy. That's given to the winner of every Grand Prix, and at the end of the season, the driver that has won most Grand Prix gets an actual silver Moet Chandon bottle. Derek, I mean, it's a joy to have a bottle, let alone a silver one.
And well, it's nice to drink what's inside it first. They're having a little sip. Michael's got it all over. He got it right down his back. Look at them. Great drive by all three young drivers. Outstanding bit of work. That they were the most difficult conditions.
We're going to take a very rapid commercial break to hear these guys in the press room in a second. These are the scenes after 44 laps, virtual dry track, sheer domination by Michael Schumacher, two-time world champion, gone on to 26 career victories and 97 starts. Now hunting down Jackie Stewart. Jackie had 99 starts and 27 wins, but look at the points. Michael Schumacher 66, Villeneuve 54, Frentzen 22 points. Let's go down. Häkkinen 18, Panis 15, Coulthard 14, Fisichella only his second points finish of the year, gets up into 14 points. Damon Hill so strong in the early part of the race, dropped back. Those soft Bridgestone tyres didn't get the job done. Well, scenes down. This used to be the old start-finish line at Spa-Francorchamps. It's still used for support races. Here are the constructors. Ferrari lead Williams by, it's not very many points indeed, it's only 8 points. Benetton third, McLaren fourth, Jordan now fifth, Prost sixth. Sauber, Arrows and Stewart 7, 8 and 9, Tyrrell in 10th. But great scenes there. Looking down, there's the valley, Derek, you were talking about, and that's what really caused the problem.
That's what caused the problem, is the weather, John.
But the forest here, the Ardennes forest, acts like a giant magnet to clouds.
Yes, it certainly does. And as I said earlier, you can be in the pit lane there, particularly that old pit lane, which is there on the left going up the hill. That was the old pit lane. The cars used to come streaking down out into Eau Rouge, and they'd just look up, and there would be the behind you, clear blue sky. But behind those trees, it was black.
Derek, all Grand Prix, you've been misty-eyed about this place. We've had a stunning Grand Prix, and I mean, it's so difficult, having been a Grand Prix driver, having been a racer, to sit and look at a race like that and not want to be in it.
Oh, absolutely, but I think one just looks and times change and you look at great drivers. I was never as great as these guys, and to see them, the likes of Schumacher, I'm just proud to be able to enjoy it with him.
Well, there are the clouds forming once again over this magnificent racetrack. These are the early scenes. Michael Schumacher, you can see those semi-grooved, they weren't a full wet, they weren't a slick tire. And that was a start. There we just see the practice starts. That was a fuel stop, refueling. We're just getting glimpses of the maestro, and he has to now, I think, receive that accolade. Team very laid back. I mean, the whole Ferrari team really has come together superbly. This car still being developed by the Ferrari team now. Ross Brawn and Rory Byrne have joined Michael Schumacher. It really is a Benetton team, but called Ferrari.
Yeah, well, Schumacher gets the right people around him, but when you are the best, you can get the best, and I think that's what he's got around him. It's certainly the people he's happy with.
Well, Michael, well done on your fourth victory here at Spa. You must be very pleased with today's performance.
Oh yeah, that's... I was standing on the podium and I was just empty of my mind, just celebrating this moment, because obviously as practice went, as whole sessions had gone, I wasn't too satisfied and I wasn't too optimistic for the race. And on a straightforward circumstance like dry, I think we would have struggled really. But obviously with this weather and then making the right choice for the tyres, everything went so perfect that I'm really, really delighted, both for the team and obviously for me, for the sponsors. It's a great combination we have in our team.
What was it like at the start of the race under those wet conditions?
Fairly difficult, I have to say, and I think it was quite right to have the pace car out, because most of the cars were on those kind of intermediate tyres, and there were some quite big puddle of waters which after 2 laps disappeared. So for that reason I'd say that the safety car had a right to be out, and it was a good decision. After that the race was clear, straightforward, and then I obviously was able to pull out the gap at the first stint.
At one point you overtook Alesi and Villeneuve in 1 lap, and then you built your lead up to well over a minute. Is there any explanation for that achievement?
I'd say we took the right decision both for setup and for tyres, and obviously I'm obviously well into the circuit when it has difficult circumstance. That suits myself quite well, and everything worked together.
Michael, well done. Giancarlo, your best podium finish yet.
Welcome back, and there are the championship positions. There are the race results as well. Michael Schumacher, Giancarlo Fisichella, that's the top 3. Hans-Harald Frentzen made it 4th. Johnny Herbert 5th. Jacques Villeneuve a disappointing 6th place. So we look forward now. Gerhard Berger 7th, Pedro Diniz 8th, Jean Alesi 9th, Gian Morbidelli 10th. Eddie Irvine, we saw him go off in the last lap in 11th. Mika Salo classified 12th. 13th, Jan Magnussen, Damon Hill 14th, Ukio Katayama 15th, and a very unimpressive 16th, Jarno Trulli, and last place. So we're going to have a look at the drivers' situation. Michael Schumacher leads 66 points, Jacques Villeneuve down 54, Jean Alesi 3rd and 22 with Hans-Harald Frentzen, Gerhard Berger in 5th with 20. And we'll look at Eddie Irvine, equal 6th with Mika Hakkinen and 18, Olivier Panis and 8th, still on 15th points, missing all those races. Fisichella up to 9th with 14, along with David Coulthard. So we look, Johnny Herbert in 11th, Ralf Schumacher 12th, Damon Hill 13th, Rubens Barrichello 14th, Alexander Wirth in 16th place. Let's have a look at the constructors. Ferrari lead 84 points from Williams, Benetton 3rd, McLaren 4th, Jordan up to 5th, Prost in 6th place. So, what a great afternoon's Grand Prix racing here in Spa-Francorchamps. Derek, a quick word.
Well, we were just privileged to watch a historic Grand Prix.
This is John Watson for Derek Bell and Jonathan Green. Hope you have enjoyed this afternoon's Grand Prix. Of Monza in Italy, a place with atmosphere. You could almost cut a knife and eat a slice of it.
Yes, Monza, of course, is the home, really, of Grand Prix racing by my book. It's the home of Ferrari. We've seen some great epic races there over the year, and there's always been the confusions whether Monza would continue, but it's still there in those forests and the park at Monza. Very different circuit to Spa, but nonetheless, when you just walk into that stadium at Monza, you feel that atmosphere. You have adrenaline rush as you walk in there. You know you're becoming part of history. And I think it's going to be a great race between these guys, between the Ferrari, and of course, as you said earlier, I think the Jordans are going to do something very, very special there. Mind you, they've been second and third in the last 2 races. Fisichella, by my book, is maturing into an outstanding young driver. And of course, Ralf Schumacher is managing to fall off the road a little bit too often. Of course, he did have to start from the back, but that was because he spun out on his warming up lap, which is a bit unforgivable. Nonetheless, I think we'll expect a lot from Ralf in the future. Michael has got to bring him on a little bit more than he is, I think. But look at these people here at Spa, John, as they pour down the hill. And of course, you saw them walking along up the hill before.
Just looking at all-time victories, Alain Prost on 51, Ayrton Senna 41, Mansell 31. But now Stuart, Schumacher, those two are going to be, well, Michael Schumacher will be in contention for Jackie Stewart's 27 wins in 98 rather than 99 Grand Prix. Of course, Jimmy Clark and Niki Lauda 25 in Fure for the case of Jim Clark. So, hope you enjoyed this Grand Prix. Join us in Monza 2 weeks' time from John Watson for Derek Bell and Jonathan Green. We hope you've enjoyed a stunning Grand Prix. In 2 weeks' time, we'll be in Monza, Italy, where, as we mentioned, the emotions are going to be enormous. It's a home of Ferrari. Watch Fisichella, the Jordan Peugeot. Watch the McLarens, that very powerful Mercedes-Benz engine. But for Williams, for Jacques Villeneuve in particular, they've got to get their head down, get their act sorted out, stop making these silly errors of judgment. Otherwise, this World Championship will not be a championship for Villeneuve. It'll go to Michael Schumacher. Ralf Schumacher there, we're just catching a glimpse of that wayward moment. The young German punches into the barrier. Did a good crash test for the Jordan team, but of course out of the Grand Prix. Ralf will be a force to be reckoned with in the Italian Grand Prix. But so many people now, Johnny Herbert with the Ferrari engine, Sauber, it's called a Patronus, but it is a V10 Ferrari engine. Giancarlo Fisichella, a man that I think could be the outside bet for victory in the Italian Grand Prix. Eddie Jordan, I think, could become the president of Ireland. They're looking for a new president, and Eddie Jordan, I'm sure, would be on such a high, would be a great honour. So many things to look forward to in 2 weeks' time. I can't wait. It's a Grand Prix that I used to love as a driver, and I love it even as much as a broadcaster. So, after a magnificent Sunday afternoon's motor racing and the roads of Belgium, we're going to say thank you very much. This is John Watson for Derek Bell and Jonathan Green. See you in 2 weeks' time in Monza, Italy. We're going to be there. You have got to watch it.